Welcome to Van Tate Sports Office, an in-depth look at the world of sports, featuring exclusive interviews with our KRQE News Sports Director, Van Tate, sponsored by Caesars Sportsbook at Route 66 Casino.
Sports Office kind of different today. We got a guy from the 505 SVF. What is that? Well, helps to keep athletes around. I'm talking about Kurt Roth, who's been the magician around getting some of these high-caliber athletes to New Mexico. And Kurt, man, you got your job cut out for you, huh?
Well, first, thanks for having me on today. It's a very interesting job. We came into it voluntarily. We knew it would be chaotic, but we didn't know how it would play out, and it's still chaotic.
Well, you know, before we go any further, let people know that you do have New Mexico roots. You were here back in the glory time of the Cooper and Automatic and all those guys.
I sat next to both those guys in class when they paid attention. They were there. They were. I got to give. I think it was Coach Wistonen who was in charge of academics. Let's call it. And for the most part, the two classes I took now. They were here my senior year. I graduated in 77. Both Cooper and Marvin got here in 77. Had an okay season and then had the big year when I was gone. But I sat with both of them in a couple of elective classes. They were there. I got to know them a little bit. And, you know, you if you know either one now, it's hard to imagine. But especially Marvin Johnson, they were shy and quiet, which is not how they turned out.
Man, that's pretty wild to hear that, especially Marvin.
Especially if you know Marvin, he's not shy, nor is he quiet. He can be very
he'll tell you
outspoken.
like it is.
He will tell you how it is. But in the beginning, he was a kid from DeRidder, Louisiana, quiet, really kind of reserved that first year.
And, you know, you've been around that long to see, you know, like you saw those years with basketball and stuff like that. I mean, these guys are probably thinking like, man, we wish we had NIL.
Everybody's thinking that. Yesterday or the day before, I got to spend time with Albuquerque superstar A.J. Bramlett, who unfortunately didn't go to New Mexico, but was for a while he had the record for most rebounds career-wise in the NCAA tournament. He played on a national championship team with Bibby, and he said, well, we would imagine. He was imagining, and he felt then he got a little down, so he had to come back up. And
all that money he made.
All that money he could have made. Yeah. He's another character who was quiet in those days and no longer is.
Well, let's talk about the basketball team now. Okay. I know that you do deal primarily with more so with them than, you know, I know you deal with both of them, but the basketball, that's your baby, right?
Well, basketball was where we came in because, one, yes, I've been a fan since 73.
Yeah.
I got here, the pit was pretty new. The Lobo, it was unbelievable. There was only one level. They hadn't done either one of the developments. Norm was on the bench with the bell bottoms and the long hair and the jewelry. It was awesome. The pit was wild. Students sat in the center court, and our best player was from Brooklyn, Bernard Harton. And Lobos won the Mountain West, the WAC, and went to the tournament. So I was hooked. But yeah, we came back. And I knew from the get-go that basketball, we could make a difference in New Mexico because it had been such a successful program. Now, when we came on with NIL, it had been 7 years without a tournament berth, which was a big drought. So we knew we could get there. Once I met Richard Pitino, I was really confident that with our help, he was going to get there, and it worked.
To the average fan out there, describe to them what you do.
Well, we're not sure anymore because it's changing. But what we do is we worked with the coaching staff. We worked with the public. We worked with donors and boosters, to raise money, and then to go find kids who were interested in transferring and playing at a high level. In the beginning, it was simply the coaching staff that said, hey, can you get X amount of dollars? But as it morphed, I've been associated with Lobo basketball since Kenny Thomas time. That's when I started to come back and get involved. First as a booster and then whatever else it developed into. But I know coaches, assistant coaches across the country. I know agents across the country.
Yeah.
I had a prior career as a certified NBA agent with a bunch of minor league guys. So once it was known that New Mexico was in the NIL game, I was getting calls. People would call me, can you use this kid? Would you be interested? And then I would relay that to the coaching staff. So we worked together. It kind of morphed into something bigger than a fundraising role.
And when you talk about, you said Richard Pitino, like he just left. Well, he left, and now we got Eric Olin, the Eric Olin era coming up. What do you think fans can expect to see? I mean, like just from your insight that you have as far as looking at some of those guys.
Well, Eric Olin, his reputation across the country in the basketball world was off the charts. Young guy, came through, had been from Alabama, but had been in San Diego as a kid. In his late after college, he went and started working, I don't know, video coordinator, whatever he was, at a D2 program. And they were a D2 program for 18 or 19 of his 21 years there. And he got the head coaching job, and they were competitive at D2. And as they transferred or morphed into a D1 program, they were one of the most exciting teams. If you watch them, I got to see them 3 times last year. They were disciplined, aggressive on defense, and everybody shoots the 3. So it's fun. If the roster gets filled out the way we all hope, it'll be an exciting time in that gym over on University.
The conversation is just getting started. We have more on the other side. And you can't talk about any of the players that are already on the roster, can you?
Well, I mean, we know their records. We know where they came from.
No, I'm just saying, I don't want to get any. I don't want the NCAA to put any handcuffs on anybody.
Right. They're not putting handcuffs on me.
No, I'm talking about handcuffing us from talking or
I think we can talk. The players who have committed,
yeah,
we know them. I mean,
but even if they haven't signed, what if they committed and haven't signed?
That again,
that's a sticky, slippery slope.
Well,
right?
They're committed. I believe that they've signed commitments to the school, and what has changed in last year or 2 years is a grant in aid. If you sign a grant in aid, and that means you're going to attend the university and get some funding, you can't transfer. And in the past, the grant and aid didn't mean anything until you got into class. So we had a big situation 2 years ago, Lobo fans were aware, where John Tonje came, signed a contract with 505, which is only based on playing at UNM. We do not sign contracts to play basketball.
Yeah.
We sign for their name, image, and likeness if they play at UNM. Yeah. He signed with UNM, a grant and aid, and then 2 days later changed his mind, and since he hadn't appeared in class or he hadn't registered, he could transfer. Now that, I believe, has changed. So I think if you sign with the school now, you're either going to play basketball or attend the school or not play anywhere else, at least at Division I.
That's just been around for a while. You know how I know that? It's because Marvin Johnson. Marvin told me that he had originally agreed with New Mexico State, and he went down there.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah, and he didn't go to class, and he had met this family here, and they really kind of turned him on to UNM and Wisnet, and so he said it was sold. But can you imagine?
No, I don't want to ever think.
You don't want to ever hear that again?
I don't want to think about Marvin Johnson
wearing the Aggies.
or Morris Udezi or Kendall Williams playing on the Aggies. Let's not go there. We have enough trouble with those guys. We had trouble a year before last. Enough with the Aggies. They're good. That team, what went down there last year in the athletic department to me was it was just not right. And those guys, considering their budget, considering where they are highly, highly competitive. We had a sweat to beat them in football, finally.
Yeah.
They've been beating us in football. They've been giving us hell or beating us in basketball. I don't want any great Lobos showing up at Las Cruces. And I love Las Cruces, but I don't want Lobos going there.
Hey, what about, like, as far as football goes? I was looking at this thing, and it said that ACK had the best recruiting class in the Mountain West.
Well, that was early. I mean, you know, we're in another portal season, so his start was good. I think that Eck and his general manager, Bo Davidson, are doing an incredible job, and I think when the dust settles in a month or so and we head toward summer football, we're going to have a pretty good roster. He has a philosophy that hasn't been tried at UNM. Well, how many philosophies have been tried under the NIL? It's a couple of 3-4 years. So he's got a different approach coming from the lower level to Division I, and I think it's going to work. I love working with Coach Eck and Bo David and the staff. We love it.
How hard is it for you to raise money to get these players now? Because I know some coaches might not even want to play, depending on a phone call to them. Like, I had one coach tell me it was kind of make it easy for you to figure out who you want when you call them and the kid is like, hey, what's my money looking like?
How much? Gotcha. Yeah, sometimes that's a turnoff, I guess. Again, every coach has his individual style. I'm not on Coach Eck's phone. I think some guys will do that. It's a turnoff. Most of the kids who are coming to UNM, they're looking for more than just the money. They're looking for the opportunity, and they want to get in and they want to play. And we saw that with the Mendenhall era. He was bringing in kids from Division I, Power 4 schools that hadn't played. Right. Now, we just brought in, and I'm blanking on his name, Eck just brought in a guy from Auburn who's supposedly he didn't play for 2 years. He hasn't played. I don't know if he played it down. That's an interesting philosophy. Guys who were highly recruited went to big programs. That was kind of the Bronco philosophy. What we're seeing from Eck, bringing his kids from Idaho and from his conference, is he's bringing kids who have played and been highly successful. Yeah. Now, can they make the jump? I think they can. I think if you're a winner at a different level, you're a winner. I mean, some of the guys he brought, Scottree Humphrey is as good as any running back that we've had who, Jaworski Merritt winds up getting drafted. Eli Sanders gets a big payday at USC. Scottree Humphrey is going to put up huge numbers, assuming he's healthy here. And, he's a winner. He gained 130 yards against us for Montana last year.
Yeah, but raising money, how tough is that? I mean, what kind of streams of revenue do you have to create? Different streams of revenue to make sure you reach your quota, or the donors, are they more motivated now?
Well, we think so. We've been working at it. Nancy for the last 2 years, me for a year before that. New Mexico does need to step up. We had our usual suspects of donors who have always given, and sort of corporate, but more family. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Ranasex and Frontier and Rick Gallus, Mackenzie Bishop of Brazo Homes, Larry Chavez. Those guys have been coming through for Lobos. And under their businesses, they've helped us. We need to get a bigger base. We have a big deal with Sunward Bank, and that's huge. But we need 10 of those, I think. And Albuquerque corporations really do need to step up because we've seen what it can create. A fired-up pit, sold out, national TV. It's a great sales pitch for the state in Albuquerque. And UNM did an economic impact study this last 6 months that shows its potential at football and basketball is to raise over $100 million a year in economic impact for the city and state. So for us, it's a no-brainer. But it's been tough. It's been tough to get the big guys.
Stay with us. More conversation on the other side.
We'll get back to the episode in a moment. Monica Wicki here, host of New Mexico Living. I wanted to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Route 66 Casino and Caesars Sportsbook. If you love sports and like having a little action on the game, Caesars Sportsbook is your go-to destination. For rewards and more info, go to route66casino.com. Now back to the episode.
How creative do you have to be? I mean, how do you make that happen? Because it looks like you're doing. I don't know how hard you've had to fight, but it looks like you've been getting it done.
We got it done, but we've been fighting every day. We have small donors you can donate a couple $100 and have access to a private website, get invited to events, and those are reoccurring. And I think the good part was the results. We saw results. The pit the last month was like wild. Yeah. So people said, hey, these guys at 505 are working their tails off. Wow. If we can help, and even it's a small amount, it makes a difference. I tell people, there's 230,000 people came into the pit last year for the whole season. Oh. Right? If each one of those people gave us a bottle of water, that's $1.3 million because a bottle of water is $5. You do the math, and you get over $1 million just from people if they walked in. So we're coming up with all sorts of creative ways to raise money. We're going to have events. We had a small event with Coach X, a cigar and a bourbon event, and we raised a decent amount of money with that. But we're more than just that, and Nancy Marquez, my chief of staff, will kick me if I don't get into the other part of NIL, which is the community relations, the charity work that the kids do and can do more of. We've done book drive, backpack drives. We've had reading in class. The athletes themselves organized the turkey giveaway last year with their NIL money, Richard Pierce and a bunch of the linemen. So that is where we think the future is going to be headed for 505. SVF is getting community involvement done.
Do you foresee in the future where this thing might – I'm thinking that they're going to eventually have to say, you can't go – well, maybe if you're a junior, you can't go because they developed you. If you're going to leave, you got to leave after your freshman season. Do you think they're going to do anything like that or compensation?
I think they have to – the only way any of that happens is if they treat the student athletes with respect at the table and they're part of these decision making. So far, there's no student representation. So if you want to call it pro sports, and then you can have contracts that are enforceable.
They're going to have to do that.
Well, you would think, but the leadership in the NCAA has been less than good, we'll say, for public
and that's
consumption.
Nice.
That's real nice.
Yeah, well, because you see where I'm going with this, right? You get a kid who he's not even you took a chance on him. You gave him his only offer. You developed him. Now he's a stud, and you're giving him NIL money, but he's leaving anyway.
Yeah, well, also that cuts both ways.
I know it does.
You bring a kid in from high school who scored 5,000 points in so-and-so Texas, and he can't make a basket here. Guess what? Sometimes he's told he might need to leave. So it works both ways.
No, I know it does.
If you're going to make kids stay and enforce buyouts, you better have guaranteed contracts then, that they get paid even if they don't produce the numbers. If they're on the court and they're trying and their game doesn't develop, well, they have the guarantee that the coaches are going to ask them to leave. So it cuts both ways.
Right.
The kids you can't just say the good kids have to be loyal. We have a situation where UCLA is playing Rutgers in the same conference. The schools weren't loyal to their conferences. Yeah. Richard Pitino's in Cincinnati. The coaches aren't loyal to their schools. Nobody says that. But when it comes to the kids, the kids should transfer.
You're right.
So let's have the rules the same. If a coach can make $10 million a year, and there's a bunch, Calvin Sampson's going to make that. The dude at Virginia's probably at Florida's probably going to make that. Then why can't the starting guard make $3 or $4 million? we have to treat the student athletes like they're the professionals they are. Let's admit it, and then let's fix it.
But the reason I said that is because you have some of these big schools, they're going to keep picking schools like
no doubt about it.
But that's why I said there should be maybe some compensation
Yeah.
if you develop a player and because then you can never. It's almost like you get slapped, you go down. And then as soon as you're not even standing up all the way yet. Here comes the hand again.
Hey, maybe it's time these Division I schools go back and pick high school guys up again, and let them play for a year or two.
But they're still going to take them. That's what I'm saying.
Eventually, but you only play 4 years. I mean, you get a year or two. I mean, you've got to be good. UNM has to be good, has to be somewhat competitive financially, and just be smart and aggressive. And it was kind of always like that.
Right.
When was the last time a Cinderella team won the national championship? I think it's been never.
Yeah.
So, we love to tell the Cinderella story in the pit from Jimmy V in North Carolina State. They're in the ACC. They're one of the top 40 programs in spending in the United States. They weren't a Cinderella. It was a Cinderella season. So let's stop. Let's look at the football playoffs. When was an upstart team was voted the best team in the country? Hasn't happened in this century.
Yeah.
So we have to admit what it is. We have to treat it, if it's going to be organized, got to be treated as pro sports. So we'll see if we get there.
All right, we'll see if we get there. Solving one problem, massive problems, one show at a time. We're out of time, and I appreciate you for coming on.
It's always great. I love talking about it anytime.
Yeah.
I'll be back. Thanks for having us.
Kurt Roth, 505 SVF. If you want to help, he's like Dion. He's like Prime. He's not hard to find. I'm Van Tate. Fernando Perez behind the controls. We'll see you next time.